Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's December 14th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and you can see it kind of ended in a neutral kind of range. We obviously we closed down, but we closed way off the lows and we closed way off the highs. Just kind of a crazy, wild swing day, which is what you expect with FOMC, especially after yesterday. Um, we did make a lower high and lower low as well. Much lower high and much lower low here, but we closed down. Um, but I'd say we closed mostly neutral. It looks like a range kind of day, as you can see there, and that's when we go to the other chart, it'll pretty much confirm that. So we had a spike in the morning, huge sell-off after the FOMC announcement, and then we recovered. We rallied back some of that before the day was over. So a lot of times the market will take those news items back, then erase them and kind of reset and start from there. So no real surprise that we rallied some. But let's flip over to the intraday chart. Not a lot of trades today because there was a lot of period. There was a period of time where you couldn't trade anyway. But let's flip over there and go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. And here's a look at it. This was a relatively nice rally here this morning. This two-tiered channel, you got a break, couple legs up to a new high, then we sold off, and then we spiked up a little bit just before the news item, and then boom, the bottom falls out. They did raise the rates. I think it was just a quarter of a point this time or something like that. But you can see we took a lot of that back. You'll see not a lot of trades in here. You wouldn't want to trade during this blue period. There was actually two items here. Um, there was the 1 o'clock news, and then of course there was a press conference at 1:30. And so and you can see we did get another sell-off after that press, when that press conference started. Um, so I would have waited for at least 15 minutes maybe, or until things settled down after this last move down. And so you might have actually sat and just waited a little bit more there till 140 or so, 10 minutes. We'll just say 140. And then you probably could have started trading. There weren't many trades in there anyway after the fact, so we just kind of were chopping up and down. And it's still, you can see it's still a little crazy there. It's not like it was, so I think you could trade this if you saw something this range. And of course, we had the little trend out of there, and then trended back down, and then into the close we rallied a little bit more there. But just a kind of a wild, crazy kind of day, kind of what we talked about yesterday, that we to be careful and be flat going into the news. And I'd be flat at least 12:15, 12:30 at the very latest. I'd be flat going into that news item. So, but let's zoom in here. We'll go through the trades I saw. There's a few early on, then you had to just kind of sit tight. And anyway, there's one over here. Originally, I brought this blue line a little further over. Um, so depending on where you kind of set your cutoff, if you were still if you didn't have this marked off as a cutoff time, you could take this trade right here as well. But let's start over here. 7 o'clock came as we're making this move down right here, and then we kind of bounced out of there. Nothing really until here. Notice we made a new swing low there, and you tried to go short once, twice, and it failed, and it pretty much confirms that trend line. Very bullish bar. I like going long there. And if you catch that, that's probably all you need for the day, and you're probably done pretty quickly. Um, we run up and we just kind of run sideways back to we come off the high and we run to the sideways back to the trend line. I don't know that I would enter this one here. It is right off the trend line. You could probably take that one too. I didn't mark it, but if you wanted to take that one, you could. But when it came back and made the double bottom, it gives you another bullish bar. I like taking that one. Um, you get a triple test here as well. It's just a first entry, but you get a triple test. Here you could at least argue this is a second entry, but you don't really count second entries in a range like that. So you're just looking for a bullish bar off the lows. And I can't remember, but I can't remember how much room there was there. That was kind of the issue with that. There's enough room there. It's close. Maybe you let it break higher and then drop a limit order. Maybe try to get an extra tick or so better entry so that you got enough room. But always worry about that room on a range like that. And then of course prices come back and give you another one, and now you got a triple test as well. That turns out to be a very nice trade, and you had two here that you probably would have caught a runner on. And there's a reversal here, but it doesn't set up good, so not one you'd take. And then you're just kind of working sideways here. And notice when it breaks out, you look for a measured move, which we got. It's tempting to short that, but this is a very strong trend. Even though we're getting some sideways action in this channel, don't short this up here, not yet. There was a lower high here, but again, I just wouldn't short it yet. And this one wasn't quite good enough signal bar. If it had been a little better signal bar, I'd say take this one. And the reason I didn't mark this one is because there's not room to get out here. I mean, maybe if you use the high, you could say there's room to get out, but you can see those last couple of bars didn't really go anywhere. And so that makes that one really suspect to me. So I'd skip it. And then the signal bar wasn't good enough here. This one, this probably should have been green instead of blue. Let's just change it to green. You might have looked at this as a failed second entry short. It breaks lower and fails and turns up. But technically, by the counts, it's not, because we had this on the far right-hand side. Well, you get a break lower right here on this bar, and then you went higher again. And then you turned down and went lower again on this bar. So that's your failed second entry short if it breaks above any bar here. So that's where your failure technically occurred right there. So, but if you're just looking at it, it looks like you tried to go lower twice and your failure occurred here. And you can see things are steadily still kind of climbing higher here. So maybe you take that trade. I'm not crazy about it. I think that you can find better trades than that. So, but with a day where there's limited trades, maybe you take that trade. I don't see anything else here. Two sideways. You're getting into that 12 o'clock. Of course, there is a bounce here off the low. Nice signal bar. So maybe you take that one. My problem with that one, I'm not crazy about it. It's a little bit sideways there, but you can see the support's holding. And you could argue this is a triple test if it breaks higher, and it does. And it turns out to be a nice move. So you could take that trade. And then of course be short by 12.15 or so. I'm sorry, be flat by 12.15 or so, and just ignore all this in the blue until things settle down. And so the last news item was at 1:30, and so it looks like by 1:40 or so here it settled down. I still don't see any trades in there. I wouldn't enter any of that stuff right there. And then suddenly you do have the green channel, which you get a break, and you run to a new high, and then you run to a new high again, and then suddenly you get a first entry, and you push below, pull back, second entry, and it fails. I like going short there. There's a second entry a few minutes later than that. I don't think I would take that trade because it looks too congested by then, but when you enter here, it doesn't look that way. And so it turns out you'd be able to ride it back down to the lows. But I wouldn't take that second entry, even though notice the new low, first entry, and then so when it breaks lower there, it's a second entry short. Runs back up. You're just running back and forth until we come up short here. And I wouldn't enter that because we've been coming to the lows, even though we went a little higher there than normal. We'd already done that here as well, and you still went to the lows. So I wouldn't trust that we're not going lower still yet. And if you draw your some kind of your little trend, it looks like we're probably still in a trend there. So I wouldn't go long there. I'd sit tight and wait. And of course we do break higher, and then suddenly this is basically a double top. So first entry, second entry, and that's right off what looks like a key entry point. That's trend line. So I like that second entry. And again, it turns out to be a pretty nice trade. And then we turn down off the highs of the range. We get our break. We actually get a little overshoot here. I played around with this one. I do believe that's, I mean, you could look at it like this. It looks to be like an overshoot because this low wasn't correct. And then this one wasn't. This one looks correct here, actually. And then, but you might argue, hey, it's still two-tiered there. But regardless, you still have room to get out on a rebound there. So you might take that higher low. I only marked it green anyway because it's not ideal. But you're looking for prices to retest the high here on this blue channel. And so, of course, you definitely want to make sure this is played out. But I somewhat believe it was more like this. That seems to fit on this upper half. And I can see it bouncing off both sides of that EMA there. So this looks like an overshoot to me, and that's why I like that one. Just gave it a little more oomph to maybe say, hey, you might want to take a chance on that one. And then we're working sideways. We run lower, and that takes us into 230. We just didn't really get another chance. There's a lower high here, but you're too far away from the EMA. I mean, if you drew a short term, you might draw a short term channel there. But to me, it really looks like it's just like this right here. And this would be the retest of the low. And that's the other thing. You've already made a new low here. Even if that is overshoot or not, you still got a break and a new low. And it could reverse right there. So it doesn't. It ends up giving you this channel down. But something to be concerned about. So really kind of a short day, trading day, because of the FOMC stuff in here. And not a lot of, it was a pretty decent morning going into that. So you could have found a trade or two here this morning. This afternoon, just not much happening in my opinion. So I think you're better off just to, on these days, probably try to be done by the FOMC by noon, 12:15, and just call it a day. Sometimes you'll get some nice moves after these and with some opportunities, but it can still be. You can still see there's still a little volatility going on. Look how much difference even the afternoon looks compared to this morning. You can see how much more structured this looks and reasonable, and it's just all over the place here. Nobody knows what's going on after that news. So this is still pretty volatile. So my opinion is be done by noon and don't worry about this afternoon stuff. And wait till tomorrow and see what tomorrow brings. So anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one today. Pretty wild day, though, to say the least. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll have our chart listed tomorrow, and that's going to wrap up the week. And that's probably going to wrap up the year for me as well. Man, this week's gone by pretty quick so far. And it's hard to believe that we're almost into the Christmas holidays. So anyway, hope you had a good trading day. Hope you didn't get caught off guard by the news item. And I've tried to warn everybody early all week this week about this because I figured it would probably be a wild day. And needless to say, the rest of the day was, I mean, it looks like it maybe kind of got back to normal about, and that's because there's probably less people trading now. The volume's getting real thin. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week and probably wrap up our year. But it just depends. I may come in for a little bit Friday morning, but definitely after this week, I'm going to take the rest of the year off. So my time here at the office will be very limited at that point. And I'll probably only be checking emails and checking emergency stuff from that point on until the first of the year. But anyway, hope you had a good day. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.